Welcome to The Explainer. This is where we decode the hidden systems that actually govern our world. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating contrast, the mechanics of trust and accountability. We'll be looking closely at the people who break the rules and the systems trying to hold them accountable.
We've got a ton of ground to cover today. We're going to walk through 1. Hidden codes and improbabilities. 2. Binance's VIP evasion playbook. 3. The real cost of non-compliance. 4. How we go about rebuilding local community trust. 5. Auditing the enforcers themselves. And finally, 6. Systemic solutions for accountability.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Hidden Codes and Improbabilities. So let's talk about this really esoteric concept of improbability. You see, bad actors absolutely rely on systems being totally unprepared for their hidden backdoors. When someone wants to dodge oversight, they don't play by the standard rules. They operate in the margins, using methods and codes that the standard rulebook literally hasn't even considered yet. It's like a giant blind spot they actively exploit.
And a perfect metaphor for this is the conceptual focus of Jacqueline L. Moore, specifically her More Love Energy codes. The whole idea here is my energy, my code. If you look at the intricate hand gestures and energy seals, they represent a secret closed-loop language. Well, in the high-stakes world of finance and compliance, bad actors use exactly this kind of proprietary, secret language to evade oversight. They build systems that look totally compliant on the outside, but are actually operating on a completely different hidden frequency on the inside.
Which brings us to Section 2, Binance's VIP evasion playbook. Let's look at a massive real-world example of this.
We're talking about the international cryptocurrency giant, Binance. According to a federal fencing consent order, Binance actually helped their absolute biggest, most lucrative U.S. VIP customers intentionally dodge their own geofencing rules. And they used this exact three-step playbook. First, they reached out to their top U.S. VIPs privately. Second, they literally coached these users to change their KYC, their Know Your Customer documents, to show fake offshore entities. And third, they flat out instructed them to use a VPN to hide their US IP addresses. I mean, wow.
The most crucial point is captured right here, directly in their own internal chat logs. This quote is from Binance's former chief compliance officer. Listen to this. On the surface, we cannot be seen to have US users, but in reality, we should get them through other creative means. They deliberately set up a total facade of compliance while actively tearing it down behind the scenes. They knew the law required them to block unregistered US users, but they conspired to keep them anyway. It's the ultimate example of saying one thing and doing another.
And it gets wilder. Check out this quote from a senior manager talking about their top 22 US VIPs. We just handle it case by case and do it offline. These executives were literally taking the paper trail entirely offline so their most profitable US accounts could stay on the platform hiding behind fake jurisdictions. They wanted zero official records. By taking it offline, they essentially ripped open that hidden backdoor we talked about, letting massive amounts of US trading money flow completely under the radar.
All this offline maneuvering feeds perfectly into what they actually called their Tai Chi strategy. Seriously, they named it after the martial art of yielding and redirecting energy. Here's how it worked. Binance explicitly used their registered US entity, Binance.US, as a decoy to soak up all the regulatory heat. Meanwhile, the main Binance.com platform just kept right on hiding the real US trading activity. The US branch took the nominal fines and the scrutiny, while market makers continued pumping massive liquidity in through the back door.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, the cost of noncompliance. Because this stuff has incredibly serious real-world consequences.
Look at this breakdown. It shows exactly how a company called Merit Peak functioned as a proprietary trading desk for Binance. They allowed the main Binance platform to tap into US liquidity right through that back door, totally bypassing standard safeguards like suspicious activity reports and basic Know Your Customer laws. And here's the thing, when you build a system specifically designed to bypass the rules, you don't just help rich VIPs trade, you completely open the floodgates for illicit money.
And the results were honestly devastating, because Binance allowed unlimited sub-accounts, and these totally anonymous no KYC tiers, what we call nested exchanges, turned into absolute safe havens for cybercriminals. Basically, bad actors could run their own mini exchange inside Binance. Entities like Suex and Garantex, which were both eventually sanctioned, processed millions in dirty funds from ransomware attacks and darknet markets. BestMixer laundered over $40 million in Bitcoin just by keeping their transactions right under Binance's daily no KYC withdrawal limits. This hidden code of evasion literally facilitated global crime. Now let's contrast that with Section 4, rebuilding local community trust.
Shifting gears down to the local level, look at the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, or WASPC. They laid out these very clear, transparent principles. They strictly prioritize the rule of law, crystal clear public policies, and most importantly, community trust. They're actively out there advocating for de-escalation and systemic improvements to actually control institutional biases.
It really presents a stark contrast, doesn't it? On one hand, you have massive corporate actors like Binance hiding in the dark, telling staff to keep things off the record and using VPNs to obscure reality. But on the other hand, you have local law enforcement organizations publicly committing to absolute accountability and transparency. It just highlights a fundamental truth. Trust isn't built on hidden workarounds. It's earned through visible, verifiable actions.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, auditing the enforcers.
Let's look at a real-time example of what that accountability looks like in practice. Right now, in April 2026, Cowlitz County is handling some very high-profile felony cases at their local Hall of Justice. We're talking about serious cases involving Jeremy Alexander and Melissa Roth. When a community is dealing with aggravated charges and serious violent offenses, having exact, bulletproof record-keeping and local auditing is absolutely crucial. The public has to know for a fact that the people enforcing the law are playing by the book. No hidden codes, no backdoors.
And we can see this exact kind of accountability right here. We can track a specific $595 training charge for the Law Enforcement Intelligence Unit, or LEIU, all the way back through the Cowlitz County vendor systems. It connects a single municipal expense directly to specific officers, like retired Lieutenant David Wilcox, Bobby Satterley, and Travis Bowling. This kind of granular, completely transparent tracking is literally the exact opposite of an anonymous crypto account. It proves that public funds can, and absolutely must, be audited down to the very last dollar.
Finally, Section 6, Systemic Solutions for Accountability. How do we actually enforce this stuff?
Well, we have to rely on a rigorous administrative backbone. Take the Grand Solutions platform, for example. It mandates a strict, secure access loop for both federal and local operations. It essentially bridges the gap between where the funding comes from and how it's actually tracked in the field, establishing super secure roles and communications. This is exactly how you build a system that actively fights back against tampering.
Just look at the specific guardrails they have in place. Mandatory two-factor authentication, strict password policies requiring at least 8 characters that automatically expire every 60 days, and an enforced grantee authority matrix that maps out exact permissions for every single user. By tying every action to a specific verified person, the system physically blocks those offline loopholes and anonymous subaccounts that bad actors love to exploit. It forces the whole operation into the light.
So here's our final thought. We've seen how a philosophy of my energy, my code can be completely twisted to hide billions in illicit funds. But we've also seen how rigorous, transparent auditing can track a single $595 public charge to build real community trust. Ultimately, true accountability requires transparency by design, which leaves us with one critical question. In the systems you rely on every single day, who is monitoring the codes? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helps you see the mechanics of our world just a little bit more clearly.